It's somewhere coming down right there.
If you're experiencing a leak coming out of the back side of the reel, down the inlet hose, or out of the axle pipe that the reel rotates on. If you have water coming out of the back of the reel, more than likely there's a loose connection between this hose and the brass swivel on the front side of the reel. In order to check that connection, we are going to loosen your hose from the brass swivel. After we loosen your hose from the swivel and get it freed, we are going to remove the swivel from the axle by unthreading the silver collar from the axle of the reel. I've loosened the brake so that it was out of my way temporarily. I'm holding the reel. Pull the inlet hose a few inches outside of the front of the reel. Unthread the brass swivel fully from the inlet hose. Check to make sure that there is a rubber washer or gasket. The O-ring or gasket is in place and it doesn't look worn. If everything looks good as it should, go ahead and reattach the swivel back to the male end of the garden hose. You'll want to make sure at this point that you get it good and tight, and if you can do that by hand, snug it as tight as you can by hand. If you need to grab a pair of channel lock pliers or vice grips to tighten this further, go ahead and do so. Before you shove the plumbing back in the reel and hide the plumbing, I recommend that you leave it outside of the front of the reel. Reattach your hose to the brass swivel, and at this point turn the water back on to make sure that the leak is gone. If it is still leaking, make sure that it isn't coming out of this crimped fitting. If it is leaking right here out of this crimp, we'd want to replace the short inlet hose for you if it is under warranty. They do have a 10-year warranty. If it is outside of the warranty period, you can order a new 6.5 foot or a 12-foot inlet hose from us. If it is leaking here out of the brass swivel somewhere, we would replace the swivel assembly for you again with the 2914 swivel. Also has the 10-year warranty. So you'd want to contact customer service and let us know if the leak is still persistent. More than likely the leak has now been fixed. It was just a loose connection. If all is good, you can shove the swivel back into the axle of the reel, and you can tighten, once you line up the fitting here, you can tighten the silver collar back into the axle of the reel. If that angle is too tight, you may want to unhook your hose again to relieve the pressure that is forced on the end of that axle. Tighten the nut in all the way. And then reattach finally your hose, which should have the anti-kink spring inside of it if it is a 5/8 hose. Reattach this firmly to the outside of the swivel, and you are done. You have now fixed a previously leaking hose reel.